During this portion of the in-service, I wanted to cover the specifics of the controller. The ST1400 has a state-of-the-art controller that offers you a variety of choices in patient therapies. The controller now, the first thing that we do when we're setting the system up is we go to the menu button. By pressing the menu button, our first choice is patient setup. If I push the button again now, it allows me to enter the patient's weight. In this particular screen, it's in pounds. We have the ability to choose between pounds and kilograms. And that again is on your main menu screen, and I'm going to go back there now just to show you that. If we toggle down to pounds and kilograms, now we have the ability to make that selection. So if you're using kilograms in your facility, you would select kilograms and then hit the menu button again, and now we're ready to do patient setup and to enter the patient's weight in kilograms. For this patient, we're going to assume they weigh 83 kilograms. Once we've entered that weight, we press the menu button again, and now the device knows that we are going to be using it for a patient that weighs 83 kilograms. And that's important because we want to make sure that we have sufficient amount of air in the mattress to provide support and therapeutic support, but not so much that it creates discomfort. Alternating pressure systems historically have been deemed as uncomfortable, and their popularity for a long time was not advanced because of that negative feature. But with today's technology and the ability to enter the patient's weight, we now only subject the patient to as much pressure in the system that is necessary to provide lift and no more. And so comfort, which at one time was foreign to this product, has now become inherent to the product because of the ability to make that type of an adjustment. So that's what we're doing by entering the patient's weight. Once we have the weight entered, then we have to make some selections based on our therapeutic choices. And again, I go back to the Braden scale. The Braden scale, in terms of activity and mobility and sensory perception, are going to steer you towards this product more so than they would to a product like the Roho. Primarily because if the patient is not moving, if they're relatively immobile, if they're insensate because of diabetes or a stroke or some other underlying comorbidity, we need to offload tissues. And the only way we do that traditionally is by moving. So if the patient's not doing that and they're dependent on us for movement, we're better served with a system that affords us offloading. And that's what alternating pressure therapy does. It offloads tissues. The therapy mode that this is in currently is called air flotation. You have two choices here. We have air flotation and we have alternating pressure. I'm going to start with the air flotation mode. Now that weight we put in kilograms initially has a reference set pressure for the system. That is what you see here. That's what that number means. The number 18 really has no value other than a reference for you to know that that is the set pressure for the system and that we need to be achieving that pressure in order for the system to be operating properly. In the float mode, we're using all 20 air pillows. There are 20 air pillows on this system that run side to side, and we're using all 20 to support the patient. In using all 20 pillows, the pressure in all the pillows is going to be the same. And this A-B division is really here for the alternating side, which I'm going to cover in just a moment. But it tells us that all our air pillows are achieving their set pressure, which is what we want. Float therapy would be used in patients who do not tolerate the AP system for whatever reason. That would be the only real indication to use it clinically. If I switch therapy now to AP, that setting is much higher now. Our set pressure is much higher because at any given time we're only going to be using half the pillows in the system. And if we're only using half of those 20 pillows to support the patient, obviously the pressure in each pillow has to be higher to do that. But only high enough again to address that initial weight that we put into the system. So what you're seeing now is we have 10 of the pillows are assigned to A and 10 of the 20 pillows are assigned to B, and the B cells or B pillows are fully inflated to our set pressure of 29, and the A cells show a pressure of 0. So what we're actually doing here is offloading tissue that is suspended over those A cells or A air pillows that run side to side on the mattress. That's the beauty of alternating pressure therapy. This occurs every 5 minutes on this system. So every 5 minutes we're switching from A to B. We're switching from cells that are inflated to cells that are suddenly deflated. And the deflation process probably takes less than a minute to transition from one to the other. Again, subjecting tissue to pressure for 5 minutes and then offloading that tissue for 5 minutes. And we're doing that continuously around the clock. So it's very aggressive, a very effective pressure management tool. Let's move down the ladder here. The next button is called Max. And when we push maximum inflate, the first thing you notice, our set pressure goes to 50. And what Max does is it makes the surface uniformly firm. A setting of 50 is firm. And the system is rated to 500 pounds. So a setting of 50 in the Max is going to provide a firm surface even for someone of that much weight. Max is typically used for repositioning the patient. It may be used for a procedure where you want a stable surface like an LP, or if you're putting in a central line, or intubation, something like that. But generally speaking, where you don't want an alternating surface to interfere with the procedure, we would go to Max. And Max will stay in this mode for 30 minutes, and at 30 minutes it has a fail-safe mechanism that kicks it out, and then we resume the pressure that is underlying. If you need Max beyond 30 minutes, what you can do is power the unit off up here. This is the power button here that turns the unit on and off. If you power the unit off, it will maintain its maximum firmness for hours. So if you have a prolonged procedure, you need something longer than 30 minutes, or you don't want to be resetting that Max button, you can simply turn the unit off. When you turn it back on, you'll need to push the button to get out of Max at that point and get back into your therapeutic setting. Otherwise, it'll run another 30 minutes in Max. Fowler, the indicator here is FB, which stands for Fowler Boost. And what we're doing basically is we're adding about an additional 20% of airflow to the mattress to compensate for a patient who was supine and who is now in a Fowler or semi-Fowler position. And gravity is going to dictate that when you're laying flat, there's so much pressure under your bottom. When you're sitting up, that vertical load shifts, and there's considerably more pressure now simply because of load being applied to your bottom. So we need additional air in the system to offset your tendency to go deeper into the mattress. And that's what Fowler Boost is for. So any of your patients who admit with reflux, who are on tube feedings, where you're concerned about aspiration, you want to engage Fowler Boost for those patients. The next button is the low air loss feature. And what's interesting about this system is you have the opportunity, as you do with the alternating pressure over here, to choose whether or not you want a low air loss. And what's interesting about this is the low air loss and the alternating pressure are completely independent systems on the ST1400. Low air loss therapy, again, if you go back to your Braden and moisture is an issue, you definitely want to consider using the low air loss feature on the ST1400. What it does is it very aggressively evaporates moisture coming through the patient's skin. And I'm going to show you in a moment some characteristics of the material that will help to show you that feature a little better. Anyway, low air loss can be, again, turned on and turned off at your discretion. I think it's pretty harmless, actually. It manages microclimate. However, and microclimate would be humidity, temperature, moisture level of the skin. That's the intent of it. However, in patients who admit to you dehydrated, it may be contraindicated. Someone comes in very dry and you're doing your best to maintain integrity of the soft tissues with lotion and other things. Probably the last thing you want to do is accelerate evaporative loss with the low air loss feature. And that's what its intent is under conditions normally where you have an excess of moisture. Finally, we have, and I'm going to turn that off. Finally, the last button here is the inflate and deflate bolster button. The mattress, and I'll show you this in a moment, has integrated side bolsters on it, and the integrated side bolsters are inflated all the time. That gives structure and stability to the mattress itself. However, on top of those integrated side bolsters, which run head to foot, are safety bolsters, and there are two on each side that rest on top of the side bolsters. These can be inflated or deflated, again at your discretion, and they're primarily there to serve as a reminder to patients that they're approaching the periphery of the bed. And in most situations they remain inflated. If you need to do a transfer out of bed, obviously we would recommend deflating the system first and also deflating the side bolsters here. So that's what that option is. Finally, on the control panel, you have two buttons over here that are kind of sitting by themselves. One is a lock symbol, which if you press and hold for a few seconds, little light comes on, and now all your controls here are locked out. And that can be helpful in situations where these might inadvertently be touched by environmental services, maybe if they were cleaning this, or if someone was moving it for some reason, or if a family member or a child or someone visiting is curious, they could alter your settings. So with that locked, your settings are safe and protected. And unlocking this is a pretty deliberate act. You have to hold that down again for a few seconds before it unlocks, so the chances of someone accidentally unlocking this are very remote. The last soft pad here is an alarm silence, and there's only one alarm on this system, and that is a low air alarm, and that would be indicative of some type of an air leak. If that were to happen, you can call us with our number, which is listed here again on the air supply, and we can troubleshoot that over the phone with you. But the incidence of that is very rare, but if that were to occur, please call us, and you can silence the alarm here with this button. On the side here, we have our CPR dump. If you have an emergency situation where you need to perform CPR, we would recommend that you turn the power off on the device up here where I showed you before, and then it's simply a matter of squeezing this and pulling it out, releasing it, and now the patient's weight will force the air out of the system pretty quickly. When things are taken care of and resolved, you push this back in, you can hear it and feel it click into place. You turn the unit back on, and it will assume whatever it was doing before, and it always gives priority, again, to these peripheral bolsters, which give the device, the mattress I should say, stability. So those will fill up before anything else does, and once they're full, then if there's any need to add air to the mattress, that follows. This is a mattress replacement on the ST1400. It replaces the hospital mattress. So when this is put into service, the mattress on the hospital bed is removed. This is never placed on top of an existing mattress. When the mattress is removed and this is placed on the pan of the bed, it's secured to the bed frame on either side with tie downs, which are also at the head and foot of the mattress. If there's a place to secure it there, we recommend doing that as well. The cover material on here is a urethane coated nylon material. It's a waterproof, vapor permeable material which participates in the low air loss process. In addition to allowing moisture vapor to move through here and be evaporated, one thing that's unique about this material is that it is a microporous material. If you look at the surface of this, you can actually see small holes everywhere on the surface of this material. So in addition to moving moisture vapor through this urethane coating, we also have direct continuous airflow against the patient's skin when we're using the low air loss feature on the Sentry. And that is one very aggressive means of addressing overhydrated tissue. And the downside really of overhydrated tissue is weakening of the tissue, which can result in blistering and can also result in skin tears. The patient is much more at risk of being subjected to the detrimental effects of shear when tissues are overhydrated as well. So if you have a patient that presents with that need, this is one way to address that. With that understanding, we also want to get the patient as close to this material as possible. So if you're padding the bed for incontinence purposes or you need a draw sheet for positioning, keep in mind that ideally the patient rest in contact with this material as much as practical, as much as possible, to realize the full benefit. I wanted to pull this back and show you inside here. The backing of the cover is a quilted Dacron material, so the moisture vapor coming through here accumulates in the Dacron fill and is evaporated by the airflow, which again is a dedicated air supply inside of this unit, which provides the flow of air into the coverlet. You can see the air pillows that we referenced before, 20 all together. They run side to side and go head to foot on the whole mattress. And this would be an A cell, this would be a B cell, A, B, on the alternating side, so that when the A's are deflating, the B's would remain inflated. And tissue supported by these would be spared pressure when they rest over these deflated cells, and that's how AP therapy works. This is the integrated side bolster I was referring to. It runs head to foot. It gives substance and integrity to the mattress itself, and on top of it are the accessory bolsters that I talked about. And I'm going to turn the unit on here just quickly and inflate these accessory bolsters. You can see right now they're flat. There's no additional height here. When I do inflate them by pushing the soft pad on the supply, the air supply here, you can see now that they begin to inflate, and in a matter of a few seconds they're inflated. And they actually add about 3 inches of additional height to the periphery of the mattress. Again, primarily there as a reminder to let the patient know they're approaching the periphery of the mattress. They're a safety feature. They can be deflated. If you're getting somebody in and out of this product, what I would strongly recommend for safety reasons is to let the patient know what your intent is, obviously. I would deflate the side bolsters, turn the unit off, disconnect the air supply here as though you were performing CPR, and now the patient's weight's going to bring them down very slowly to frame height on the bed. So we're that much closer to the ground, and in the base of the mattress is a nylon covered piece of foam, which gives this system the property of a stretcher or a gurney. So it's not therapeutic, but it's not uncomfortable either, and it's adequate for padding when you're doing a transfer. So with the product deflated, bring the patient to a seated position, and you can do a pivotal transfer, you can do weight bearing, whatever is indicated. When you return the patient to bed, they're seated, swing them to a lying position, come down here, again, reconnect your air supply here on the side and power the unit up. You can allow it to fill passively, or if you want to hasten it, you can hit max and it will fill up a little more quickly. Remember, 30 minutes in max, it's going to kick out. So whatever therapy was set here is going to be maintained. That's something I want you all to understand. This has a memory, it has memory, so whatever settings are placed in the system, the only time you would lose them or they would be changed is if it was a deliberate change on your part. If it's unplugged, if you have a power failure, if you're transferring from one area to another and you unplug this device, when you plug it back in, it's going to behave as though it had never been unplugged. Okay? That's the Century 1400.